Blasphemous Bill Mackay. Whenever, wherever, or whatever the manner of means he died. Whether he died in the light of day or under a peak-faced moon, in cabin, dance hall, camp, or dive, luck-lucks, or hot and shoe. In velvet tundra or virgin peak, by glacier drift or draw, on muskeg hollow or canyon plume, by avalanche, fang, or claw, by battle murder or sudden wealth, by pestilence, hooch, or lead. I swore in the book, I'd follow and look till I found my tomb was dead. Now Bill was a dainty kind of cuss, his mind was mighty sot, and a dainty patch of flower and grass, in a civilized boneyard lot. Where he died and how he died, it didn't matter a damn, so long as he had a grave with frills and a tombstone up and right. And so I promised him, and he paid the price. That very night, he paid the price.
You forgot it.
I blowed it that very night, got in the Tenderloin. I painted a 3-foot slab of pine, here lies poor Bill Mackay, and hung it on my cabin wall, and I waited for Bill to die. Years passed away, then at last one day came a squaw with a story strange. The long deserted line of traps, way back of the Bighorn Range. The little hut by the Great Divide, a white man stiff and still, lying there by his lonesome self, and I figured it must be Bill. I remember the contract I'd made with him, and I pulled down from my shelf the swell black box with a silver plate he picked out for himself. And I packed it full of grub and hooch, and I slung it on the sleigh, and I harnessed up my team of dogs, and was off at the dawn of day. Do you know what it's like in the Yukon wild when it's 59 below, and the ice worms wiggle their purple heads through the crust of the pale blue snow? And the stovepipe smoke breaks sudden off, and the sky is weirdly lit, and the careless feel of a touch of steel burns like a red-hot spit. When the mercury's a frozen ball, the proserpine stalks to kill, well, it was just like that day, when I set off to look for Bill. Oh, the awful bush that seems to hush you down with every hand, as you plunder blind with trail to find through that blank and bitter land. Half dazed, half crazed for the winter wild with its grim heartbreaking woes, and the ruthless strife for grip on life that only the sourdough knows. North by the compass, north I pressed, river, peak, and plain. Past like a dream, I slept to lose, and waked to dream again. River, plain, and mighty peak, and who could stand unawed? As their summits blazed, would stand ungazed, at the foot of the throne of God. North, north, through the land accursed, shunned by the scouring brutes, and all I heard was my own harsh word and the whine of the Malamutes. At last I came to a cabin squat, built in the side of a hill. I burst in the door, and there on the floor, frozen to death, that Bill. Ice, white ice, like a winding sheet, sheathing each smoke-grimed wall. Ice on the stovepipe, ice on the bed, ice gleaming over all. Sparkling ice in the dead man's chest, glittering ice in his hair. Ice in his fingers, ice in his heart, ice in his glassy stare. Hard as a log and trussed like a frog with his arms and legs outspread, I gazed at the coffin I brought for him, and I gazed at my gruesome dead. At last I spoke. Phil liked his joke, but still, God darn his eyes. A man ought to consider his mates and the way he goes and dies. Have you ever sat with a frozen corpse in the shadow of the pole, with a little coffin 6x3, and a grief you can't control? Have you ever sat, stood by frozen water? Have you ever sat by a frozen corpse that looks at you with a grin and seems to say, you may try all day, but you'll never jam me in? I'm not a man of the quitting kind, but I never felt so blue as I sat there staring at that stiff, studying what I do. So last I rose, kicked off the husky dogs who were nosing round about, and a little roaring fire in the stove, and I started to thaw Bill out. Well, I thawed and thawed for 13 days, but it didn't seem no good. His arms and legs stood out like pegs, as if they was made of wood. Till last I said, it tain't no use, he's froze too hard to thaw. He's obstinate, he won't lie straight. So I guess I've got to saw. So I sawed off poor Bill's arms and legs. I laid him snug and straight, in a little coffin 6x3 with a dainty silver plate. I came nigh near to shedding a tear as I nailed him safely down. And I stowed him away in my Yukon sleigh, and I hauled him back to town. I buried him as the contract called in a narrow grave and deep, and there he's awaiting the great cleanup where the judgment sleuth has swooped. And as I sit and I meditate in the light of the midnight sun, I sometimes wonder if they was the awful things I've done. And as I sit and the parson talks, expounding on the law, I often think of poor old Bill and how hard he was to saw.